You are welcome to today's lesson. We are continuing our discussion on rigid motion, and the subtopic for our discussion is reflection on the line y equals x. Now, what are the types of reflection? In our previous lessons, we discussed some of the types of reflection. The first type of reflection was reflection in the x-axis. We also looked at reflection in the y-axis, and now we want to look at reflection in the line y equals x. Now, how do we demonstrate reflection in the line y equals x? How can I identify the mirror line anytime I'm asked to reflect in the line y equals x? That is what we want to demonstrate. And so if I have my x-axis and my y-axis, and this is the positive and negative side of the y-axis. The same way on my x-axis, I have the positive and the negative side. Now, when we are reflecting in the line y equals x, this implies that the y value is the same as the x value. That is the meaning of y equals x. So any value I pick for y, so when I pick y to be 0, automatically x also becomes 0. So that produces a point 0, 0, which means that the x coordinate is 0, the y coordinate is also 0. In the same way, when I pick the y value to be 5, it means the x value also becomes 5. And when I'm to plot it as a point, it becomes 5, 5, meaning my x coordinate is 5 and my y coordinate is also 5. So when I'm to plot this on the graph, you realize that the point 0, 0 will appear at the origin. And also, when I'm to plot the point 5, 5, it means 5 on the x-axis and 5 on the y-axis. Now, what if I choose the value of y to be negative 5? What will be the x value? Automatically, the x value also becomes negative 5. So when we are to plot that point also becomes negative 5, negative 5. So on the graph, it will become negative 5 on the x-axis, then negative 5 on the y-axis. Now we can join this set of points together with a line. Now this line is what we are calling the mirror line. So anytime we have reflection in the line y equals x, this is how it looks like. Now let's look at an example under reflection in the line y equals x. If we are given that reflect the points negative 2, negative 1, and also negative 5, negative 3 in the line y equals x, how do we perform such reflection when we know the mirror line y equals x? And so we'll pick the first point, negative 2, negative 1, and plot on the graph. And so this is negative 2, negative 1. Then, since we are reflecting in the line y equals x, we are going to move towards the mirror line. So we move this point towards the mirror line. How many times do we move? So let's move 1, 2. So I moved 2 times to get to the mirror line. Now, since we are dealing with reflection in the line y equals x, which is a slanted line, we are going to move 2 steps down. So 1, 2. So the last point gives us negative 1, negative 2. Now when we are to consider the next point, which is negative 5, negative 3, under the reflection in the line y equals x, in the same way, we are going to move towards the mirror line. So we move this point towards the mirror line. So let's count the number of times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I moved 4 steps to get to the mirror line. In the same way, since it is a slanted mirror line, you are going to move 4 steps down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last point produces the image point -3, -5. Now, what do you observe? You observe that the first object point, which was -2, -1, produced the image -1, -2. In the same way, the second object point, which was -5, -3, produced the image point -3, -5. Now, this implies that in the first point, the x-coordinate of the object became the y-coordinate of the image. In the same way, the y-coordinate of the object became the x-coordinate of the image. Now, considering the second point, the x-coordinate of the object became the y-coordinate of the image. In the same way, the y-coordinate of the object also became the x-coordinate of the image. So, under reflection in the line y equals x, the x and the y coordinate interchange. Now, let's take note. Anytime I have an object point, that is point A, to be xy, and I'm reflecting in the line y equals x, this implies that the object point A, which is xy, will produce an image A1, which is yx. So the object point, which was xy, was reversed to get the image yx. In the same way, if I have the object point B to be alpha beta, to produce the image, I just have to reverse the point to become beta alpha. So the image B1 becomes beta alpha. And in the same way, if I have my object point to be C, which is 1, 2, to get the image point, I just have to reverse the 1, 2, which will become 2, 1. And so the image is C1, which is 2, 1. Now let's look at an example. In this example, we have to draw the triangle ABC with vertices A, which is 2, 4, B, which is 3, 5, and C, 4, 4. And also, we have to draw the image triangle A1, B1, C1 of triangle ABC under a reflection in the line y equals x. Then lastly, we have to indicate the coordinates of the triangle A1, B1. And so to answer the example given, we will need a graph sheet. And so on the graph sheet, I'll need the x-axis and also my y-axis. And so on my y-axis, I have the positive and the negative side. And on the x-axis, I have the positive and the negative side as well. And I'm still using a scale of 2 centimeters to 1 unit. Remember, we're given certain points to plot. The first point was point A, which is 2, 4, point B, 3, 5, then point C, which is 4, 4. So I'll pick the first point, which is point A, and plot. So 2 on the x-axis, then 4 on the y-axis. Point B, which is also 3 on the x-axis, 5 on the y-axis. And the last point is point C, which is 4 on the x-axis, then also 4 on the y-axis. So afterwards, I'm going to join the points together. So I'll join the point A to B, then B to C, and the last point, point A to C. And that forms the triangle ABC. Now remember, we have to reflect this triangle in the line y equals x. And so when we pick the first point, which is point A, 2, 4, What will be its image point? Remember we said if you are reflecting in the line y equals x, the image point becomes the reverse of the object point. And so the point or the image point becomes a1, which is 4, 2. In the same way, when we pick the second object point, which is point b, 3, 5, and I'm reflecting in the line y equals x, it also reverses to become point b1, which is 5, 3. And the last point, point c, which is 4, 4, reflecting in the line y equals x, still becomes 4, 4, because when I reverse it, it is still the same number. And so we are going to plot this new point on the graph sheet. So I'll plot the first point, a1, which is 4 on the x-axis, then 2 on the y-axis. I'll pick the second point, which is b1, which is 5 on the x-axis, then 3 on the y-axis. Then we pick the last point, which is point c1, which is also 4 on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis. And so because the object point was 4, 4, it had the same image point to be 4, 4. That is why they are all plotted at the same point. And so from here we join the points together. So I join a1 to b1, then b1 to c1, and the last one I'll join a1 to c1. And that forms the image triangle a1, b1, c1. Now what do you observe? You observe that anytime I have an object point A, which is 2, 4, it produces the image point A1, which is 4, 2. The second point, which was point B, 3, 5, also became B1, 5, 3. And the last point, point C, 4, 4, also produced the image C1, which was the same 4, 4. And so you observe that the x-coordinate of the point A, which is the object point, became the y-coordinate of the image point. And the y-coordinate of the object point became the x-coordinate of the image point. Now in point B, the x-coordinate of the object point became the y-coordinate, and also the y-coordinate of the object point became the x-coordinate of the image point. And the last point, point C, the x-coordinate of the object point became the y-coordinate of the image, and also the y-coordinate of the object became the x-coordinate of the image. And so we can see that anytime we are reflecting in the line y equals x, the coordinate of the object point is reversed to get the coordinate of the image point. Now your assignment for the lesson. In this assignment, we are to draw the triangle PQR with vertices P, which is 2, 4, Q, which is 3, 7, then R, which is 6, 7. And also you are to draw the image triangle P1, Q1, R1 of triangle PQR under a reflection in the line y equals x. Then lastly, you are to indicate the coordinates of the triangle P1, Q1, R1. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next lesson.